So you can see that that drag and drop is pretty prominent in the whole system. I can actually drag and drop on the sides as well. If I go to my project folders, I can drag and drop in there. Really anywhere that that we thought possible, we've put the drag and drop feature just kind of make it work like a desktop version does, while you still have the functionality of cloud. This project being created from a template took all of these tasks over with it. So all of these durations and work hours were already set. So if you have some extremely similar projects, this is going to be really valuable for you guys, because you're not going to have to completely redo your schedule every time. So you create it in your Timberline or your CRM system. You copy it over, and obviously I don't know exactly how your CRM system is set up, so I can't determine how we would differentiate which template to use. But when you create the item in CRM, it would basically create the project in here, create it with a template like this. So you already have your template together. You have really all you have to do is set your start and end dates, and then assign your resources, which I'll get to here next. Any questions about any of that scheduling part there?
I do have one question beyond that. Maybe somebody else has some other questions. But with this template, can you also carry over budgets at the same time?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Absolutely. So on this project, I guess information here, I go here in my budget. This contract amount was obviously 0. If your template says any amount here, it's going to be transferred over with that template. So that's the way that's going to work. And then so if you have a template project that always has the same budget, that's going to be really nice for you guys, because you pretty much got your budget in place, you got your schedule in place already. Really, all there is to do is set your start and finish dates, and then assign your resources. So assigning your resources would be the next part, and you can see I've already got some resources assigned here. All I did was I edited the task, edited the resources, and I selected who I wanted to add. So this is a list of resources that I've added to the project already. This was done when I actually created the project, but at any time you can go up to your resources list here, and you can add new resources to the project, either by full company if you want to add an entire company. You can add an entire group. This by company means if you have any sub-companies, I guess you could call it. So if you actually separate your company into different company names, this would be how you could differentiate in the system with that. Group is just any type of a group that you think might apply to anybody. People can belong to multiple groups. There's no restriction to that. And adding by group, in this case I don't have any. Adding by group is going to add the entire selection of people in the group. So if you have a work group or something, that's going to be really nice to be able to add everybody at once. And then department as well. So this is just another a way to categorize people. And of course you can just add them singularly by each person. But then you assign their resource type, which this is basically giving them different permissions in this project. Project resources is just going to be somebody that's assigned to a task that's going to be able to enter time in the system.
Hey, Evan.
Absolutely. Yep, sir.
Hey, do me a favor whenever you go and highlight and open. Don't close it out so fast because I've got a little bit of lag here, so I don't kind of get to see. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just wait a split. I know you know this really good, but I'm having a hard time keeping up because it opens and closes pretty quick.
I hear you. I hear you. No problem. Yeah. So this is the user selector that I was showing there, and then down here you got your companies, your groups, which I don't have any in the system, and then departments here. So those are the 3 different selectors there, and then you've got your different resource types here. So you project resources, which is going to be assigned to a task. Your time entry guys, mainly your laborers. Then you got your schedulers, which is most likely your superintendents, depending on what permissions you want to give them in the system. That's going to determine that. And then your project managers, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's your main guys that can control everything in the system, or in this project rather. That isn't the only level of permissions either. So if before I go any further, I want to kind of cover that. You can set permissions via user information. So each user is going to have different permissions to be able to do different things in the system. And then each folder does as well. So if you wanted to, and this is actually pretty common and people will set up different folder structures and only give certain people permissions to their specific folders. This is going to keep everybody out of what they're not supposed to be in and make sure that the only people that are changing items are the ones that are given permission to do so. All right, so after adding your resources to the project itself, that's going to allow you to assign them to your tasks. So if you created it from a template, depending on how you do your projects, you might not have your resources already added like I did. So you would basically go into your resources group, add your group or your people, and then go back to your task list here. And then you're just going to assign resources to each of these tasks. So you're basically saying who is doing each item, who's responsible for it. And then this is going to give them the option to go in, enter any photos in there, enter any information on each task that they're assigned to, and actually enter time in those as well. So I think my understanding is you guys are going to have your guys in the field actually go in the system and enter time themselves, correct?
That would be the intent, yeah. Either that, okay, or we'll either use your time input system or utilize one we've got right now, but we would certainly want to take a look at what you're doing.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, if we could, I mean, in my opinion, and I can't speak for Luke or for Donna, but in my opinion, keeping it to one system, you know, technicians tend to get confused when they have to jump from program or, you know, from system to system, and it gets to be a mess. If we can keep it internal to one, and then we can track all of our, I mean, if this is a project management tool, it's good to keep it all in one, but that's just my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree, and I'll definitely show you this time entry thing because I think it's exactly what you're looking for. I hope so. Please let me know if there's anything that I'm missing. So this project has time on each of these tasks. So this is telling the system basically that each of these resources is responsible for the amount of time that's on this task specifically. So if I have a tab up here, I actually have another user up. You can see that I've got a time entry grid here. So this is what your guy's going to see when he goes in the system. If you set this to be his dashboard, of course, he's actually going to be able to see this immediately when he logs in. So as soon as he logs in, it's going to bring him directly to the time entry grid, so they wouldn't even have to see anything if they're not doing anything else. And then you can see that they can enter in time against each of these tasks here.
Hey, so is this web-based or is it app-based?
It is web-based. So it's a web, and actually I can kind of show you. It'll bring me back to the home page when I do it, but I can show you exactly what it does here. Basically, it's gonna bring it down to a view for a mobile phone. So you can see that I've got all my work list items, punch list items here. If you guys do any punch list items, you got your tasks and time entries, expense codes. You got a directory of people here, and this is just the mobile view. So you can actually switch back to the full-size view on the web page if you decide to. But the reason we don't do an app is because there's different providers such as Windows phones, Android phones, Apple phones, obviously, and then you got Blackberries. So kind of making an app to work with all of them sometimes doesn't happen. So having HTML5 in here kind of makes it a little bit easier for everybody to use it because all you need is a web browser. So this is my laborer's view, I guess you could say. Anybody that's not a project manager, this person actually only has limited access in the system. So on that time entry grid, if I go back to my home page here, so you can see the different tasks that I'm assigned to. I can go in here and enter time against each task, and then I can enter if it's complete here. Okay. So this is going to, over time, this is going to create a timesheet. So in this week, you can see this is my current week of December 1st to the 7th. As soon as I save this timesheet, it's going to save in the system. Now, it's not going to submit yet. You can see that there's a submit button up here. So as soon as they go through the whole week, complete all their time entries for the week, they're going to be able to submit this timesheet to you. And then the person that's being submitted to, and there's actually a default person in the system that's going to be submitted to, they'll receive a submittal approval or a timesheet approval. So the person's view if I go back to my view for my project manager.
Evan, you're going really fast again. I'm not keeping up.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm going back to my project manager view here. So I'm going to my time entry, and I'm going to my timesheet approval. So I'm just tabbing over to my project manager. This is my team user, or my laborer, and this is my project manager view. So I'm just showing you two different users right now. So I'm going to go from my timesheet here, which is my laborer is going and entering in time here, and then they're going to be able to submit it over here. And then after they submit that, being a project manager on this side, they're going to get an approval either on their dashboard, or they can go up to their timesheet approvals here, and it's going to be listed here. After you can do either current week, current quarter.
All right, so $1 million question, and Charles is going to grimace when I ask it. So apparently somebody determined that our project managers have to change timesheets based on overtime requirements or something. Is time adjustable from the project manager's perspective on said technician's timesheet so that we can sort of alter how their overtime is calculated?
Here, let me get a report up here, and maybe I'll understand what you're talking about a little bit better.
Well, in RCR, the technicians just put all of their hours in under regular. When they submit their time, the project manager then has to go in, and for every technician, the project manager has to go in, and if the guy has 53 hours, the project manager has to pull 13 hours off of regular time somewhere on some site, put it over to overtime so that the regular time shows 40, the overtime reflects what the overtime amount is. Is that adjustable here to where if this technician comes in on Monday or Sunday like you're showing there and puts in 12 hours, is this automatically going to calculate that 4 of those hours are overtime, or is it going to wait until it hits 40 and then everything over 40 will then roll over into a overtime rate?
Everything over 40 will be an overtime rate. So and then that's set per person. So if you have a guy that has less hours, maybe it's overtime less, you can adjust that, but by default, after 40 hours in a week, that would go into an overtime pay. And if I save and submit this, I'll kind of be able to show you maybe. So I'm just submitting a small timesheet here, and I'm going to go over to my project manager and see my approvals. So you can see I've got a timesheet here with 8 hours. I don't actually have a rate on this guy. So obviously if you want to set a bill rate, you can do that. And that's just in the user's information. So each of your users is going to have a different bill rate. They don't have any ability to change that. Obviously that would be pretty bad. So this timesheet here, I can click it and open it. This has some basic information. You can see that I can edit most of that. So I can edit I can edit their hours here. I can edit their rates. So in this case, I don't actually go into overtime hours. So I guess, yeah, that's a good question. I know for sure that if you go over 8 hours in one day, it's not going to go into overtime. So is that what you're looking for?
Well, right now, it's just a capability that we currently have. So I don't know if we're going to keep that or not, or whether or not some of the things here will take precedence over that. But it's a good question. Okay. It's a good question.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's you guys. So I want to make sure I'm understanding this right. If you go over 8 hours, you pull it from a different project, or how exactly does that work?
It's at the end of the week. At the end of the week, when the technician submits their time, we don't go in. I mean, we go in and review time daily. The project managers do, or they should be. But at the end of the week, when the technician actually submits their time, we have to go in as the project managers and do a review. And if there's overtime on that, we have to make some editing at the end of the week. So any of the hours over 40 doesn't specifically mean anything over 8. It's at the end of the week, once the technician hits the 40 is when the project managers have to start start having to edit some selections.
Yeah, just determine basically
Okay.
what projects are going to be charged with the overtime, and they may not want it just to fall in within a particular.
I see.
Okay.
Okay, understood. Yeah, and in that case, yeah, you can, because this list here is listing all of the tasks that this guy's done in a week. So you can even add new ones too here. So you could completely change it to be you could change this 8 hours over here to be a different project here, or you can remove the amount of hours here and move it over. So yeah, that is absolutely possible right here. Now, figuring out the amount of hours on each project would, I guess, be a little different. But I mean, you could do that on a report pretty easily. But I mean, viewing here, if you see that you've got a guy that's 40 hours on one project or 45 hours on one project, you could completely add a new line here. You can see that I've got actually a new line already started. I can add new hours in here, remove 4 from this one here, and put this on a completely different project. So that's you can absolutely do that. And is that kind of what you're looking for?
I think that's what Walt's looking for.
Okay.
Okay, another question associated with this. The jobs that this individual sees and is able to access, are those only the jobs that he's been scheduled to participate in? Okay, so it's
sir.
really scheduler dependent, correct?
It is absolutely scheduler dependent.
Okay.
So on my project resources tab here, on their time entry view, you can see that there's 2 projects listed here, and that's because there's only 2 tasks that they're assigned to that are within this week. So if I had 10 tasks here within these dates here, they're going to all show here, but not anything out of those dates. So this is going to allow you to kind of, I guess, limit what they can enter time in against, so you can control that. So anyway, I'll get back to my project here. So that time entry and then marking that as complete is actually going to update the project as well. So when they're entering in the time, they say, okay, this task is complete. It's going to update this as complete, so you as the project manager know when everything's being changed and when everything's being updated. And then your hours, your amount of hours, is actually going to be updated as well. So you can see that I've got 2 hours, 2 work hours on this one. So as soon as somebody enters in time, either on this sheet here, or they enter in a time on their time entry grid or worksheet here, this is going to update and give me 2 hours of time. So in this case, I just actually checked that it was complete, and I'm on the wrong view. I'm going to switch over to my project manager view here. This is my project scheduler view I was showing you, and you can see that he can't really edit anything in here. He can view the tasks that are on the project, but he can't edit anything. And this is this guy actually has more permission than some might too. So you can limit it even more than that. But you can see on my actual project manager's view, I can edit these, so I can check these as complete if they aren't complete. I can do anything there. So a little more information on these tasks. They actually have more items than just your time. They've also got, you can add custom fields to them, so if you have any custom fields that you think might be applicable to tasks, you can absolutely do that. You can also add items such as documents. You can add approval requests, so if you need to send something internally for approval, you can do that. You can add shortcuts, which are pretty self-explanatory. It's just a shortcut to a website. So the most valuable thing that I find is adding files. This allows you to add photos to this task. So if you have, say, a task for a site survey, you might want to, when you're complete, your superintendent or whoever's doing that might want to come in here and upload those photos to the system. That's going to allow them to upload it directly on this task, or they can go into your project documents and upload them on your project documents, which is really similar, except it's not going to assign it directly to a task. It's just going to be your general documents for the project. So you can see I've got a site photos folder. This was copied over when I created the project from my template. So again, really everything on the project is gonna copy over from the template. These documents, there's no limitations. So you can add any type of file. There's no storage limits. So you're unlimited storage completely. So that's pretty valuable. All right. So if I go back to my project here, so I know that the change order process was pretty important, and I figured I'd get to that.
Can I ask? I need to ask you more questions about the time reporting before you move on.
Of course, absolutely.
Have you already, or have you addressed employees on unit pay before?
Not personally, but we have a lot of different people running that and implementing, so there's a chance that we have a customer out there using that.
Yeah, because we have employees that are on unit pay, and we also have to put a calculation in there for their overtime, even though they're on unit pay. We have to.
Okay.
They also they put their units in weekly, and then they also have to have a place for them to put their unit hours worked. And based on the unit hours worked, we have to do a calculation for their overtime based on the actual hours worked versus their unit pay.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I personally, I'd have to get back to you on that particular thing because I've never come across that myself.
Okay.
The thing with this system is it's highly customizable. So this is actually, I should probably go into this a little bit. All of these items, these task items, these ASIs, change orders, all of these different level items are actually custom. So you can go in and edit them. So as far as time entry goes, you can change different time entry items too. So over here in the administration panel, the user-defined fields and forms is going to allow you to change anything in the system here. So time entry, you've got custom fields for time entry. In this case, we don't actually have any for time, but we have them for projects and tasks. So somewhere in there, I'm confident that somebody has done it with our system. But I'll add that to my list here to kind of consult with somebody who's a little bit more versed on the time entry spot than me.
Okay.
So we got unit pay. All right. Anything else on time entry?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Sorry I couldn't get you an answer right away.
One question on time entry, or I guess, or some of the forms that you were going over. You're basically, we're talking about a paper form. It sounded like that gets attached. You have the ability of doing forms within the system, so that okay.
Yes, sir. And and you're talking mainly about change orders and things like that, right?
Well, I'm talking about closeout package requirements. So you had a punch list on there, punch list, or anything that the customer is requiring us to compile in order to finish up that particular task or site.
Absolutely. Anything that you have to get for the customer or even for your vendors can be sent through the system. So on my project view here, you can see there's a drop down. We actually have a different type of view, I guess you could say, where there's either a project or a task level. It depends how you want it. So you can see that on my project level, I can access all of these items directly on my task list or whenever I'm on my project at any point. And then I've got my task items, which are all separated per task. So on this drop down, on my task view, this is a list of these items only for this task. So my RFIs, my submittals, purchase orders, closure list, all for just this task. We can move, and we actually do have customers that use this where these are moved to the project level. So I guess it's really all dependent on where you want it located. So anyway, these items can all be transferred out of the system and sent via email through the system, and then there's a PDF attached. You can also view the PDF itself. So if I go to, I know one thing that was important was change order, so I'll show you how that works. You can see that I've got a change order to my owner created just for demonstration purposes here. If I go to that change order, you can see that there's some basic information that's already entered in. I mean, I haven't really put in a whole lot of information, but you got descriptions, schedule impacts, the requests, anything that you want, I guess, for that matter, because this is all customizable. So you can add any new fields that might be on your form already that you think that should be on there. As soon as you save this item, it's gonna the status is pretty important because the status will change. So if I save this here, I can go up to this tools option here, and I can view the PDF, or I can email the page out. So viewing the PDF is going to generate all of this information into a PDF with your logo on it. We can put your forms in here if you'd like. We actually already have our own template forms in there, and basically we'll put your logo on there for you. But again, yeah, we can customize it how you want, add your forms that you already have if you'd like.
Okay, you're kind of going around what I'm trying to get at. Okay, a technician goes out to the site. He's got to capture certain information that's got to be filled out prior to him leaving the site. Can he do that electronically at the site, including pictures, rather than having to fill out a paper form that somebody is going to have to re-input?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because this, well, I mean, you're talking like change orders.
No.
And
I'm talking about a closeout package that he's got to capture this serial number. He's got to do a picture associated with this particular function. He's then got to capture a serial number. He's got to document what he performed there.
Yeah, he can do really anything on the system. I guess it just depends on how you want to handle that. So like on your, if you have a task for that, you can create a task for him for closeout package. We have a closeout package item here, so you got a closure list, and you can create a closeout package, which in this case it's only just a checkbox if items are received, but you can add different fields here, so you can have all of your items that you need for a closeout on this list here.
That the technician would have access to in the field.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So let's say he takes a photo of whatever. He's out in the field. I need this closed out in the next hour. I know he can't get back to my office. He takes that photo, loads it into this specific job on this specific project. My PM is sitting back in the office and needs to send this out. He has the ability to upload that photo to this program, and it resides right there for the PM to grab it and send his form and submit it, right?
Yes, sir. So on this closure list that on really anything in the system, they can add a photo. So they could really go to anything in this project here, or even in the main documents in the system, and add the photo. But if they wanted to create a new project closure like I just did, have all the items and say they go through here, they check what's done in the project, and then they upload a photo in the field. Now, to kind of cover this, the mobile view and the full desktop view, which the desktop view can be viewed from a mobile phone just with no issues whatsoever. But the full desktop view is required to do that kind of an operation, to actually add files. But again, it can be used from a phone just fine. If you go to this add button here and add file, you can choose any photos you want, and it's going to upload this item or this photo directly onto that project closure. So it's giving it a place to reside on this project closure. Your project manager can go on here. They can go to this project closure on this project and view that photo at any time. And they can actually then send it through the system. So your project manager can go on here, email this page out. It'll email a PDF with the list of all the items that are complete for them, email them an attachment with the photos that are attached, and then it'll document that it was sent. So this email page button is going to be pretty much on every page, any page that has an item that needs to be sent for that matter. And then your project communications list is going to document all those emails that are sent out. So at any time if you go to this list, I'm not sure if I've sent anything. I have not for this project. But you can see that there's different items that you can filter by. So in this case, it's going to show pretty much like an email would. Your to, your subject, the created date, the item that was sent. So this is kind of where you document that kind of information. So your guy in the field can absolutely do that directly from his phone or whatever kind of a device he's using. What are your guys usually using in the field?
Typically a phone.
Their phone?
Yeah. Yeah, so they take a picture on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
They in order to get it in here, how does it get from the phone to here? Do they email it? What do they do?
No, they would have to go on, they would go on the site. So they would go on whatever your website is, and then they can use it like that. Now the thing with uploading photos like that is you can't use the mobile view to upload documents like photos to items like that. It would have to be from a full desktop view, but again, you can view in a mobile phone. You can view this view, no problem.
But you can view, but you can't upload. So a technician could not upload.
Yeah, but
You
most of
can
my
upload.
guys have air cards. But again, and honestly, a lot of times the quality of the photo that a phone takes is not adequate enough for them to
Okay.
So Charles, I can probably work around that one because they have an air card, or they're going to have a hotspot or something like that. And if it has to be PC based, that's okay. It just does make it a little bit more cumbersome on something like that. Yeah.
Well, and the thing, they can upload photos from a phone though. There's no restriction to doing that.
Okay, I thought you said they couldn't.
As far as I've used it. No. They just can't view the mobile view of the device. So
so it's the web-based application on their phone that they would. Okay. Well, that's okay.
Exactly. So like when they're viewing it on their phone, they're gonna by default they're gonna see this web-based application for their mobile view. It shows a cleaner view, so they can just do the things that might be more applicable to the field. So this is mainly just refined to like time entry, checking items as complete, updating different.
So the short answer is they just go to the mobile. Not the mobile web app or link, but the actual PC link to go kind of. Right.
Yeah, and they don't even have to go to a different link either. They can just click the button on the bottom right, and then it's going to open up the full view. And then they can use it just like any desktop view from there. I don't know if any of you guys use iPads, but your iPad works. The browser on the iPad works exactly like the iPhone browser does, and the iPad uses a full view. It doesn't use the mobile view at all. So, I mean, anything that you can do on the desktop, you can do on a mobile phone. There's no restriction whatsoever. I should actually I should say there's one restriction. Gantt charts requires Microsoft Silverlight, and that is not available on mobile phones.
Yeah.
At least iPhones, I'm not sure if it's available.
Yeah, I would imagine that process requires full PC capability, because my PMs aren't going to be managing it from your phone. I mean, they're going to be at their
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, Windows tablets will run Silverlight, so there are tablets that do work with it. It's just that iPads do not. But yeah, again, it's editing editing a Gantt chart from a mobile phone wouldn't exactly be the most convenient way to do so. So let me get back to my project here. And is there anything that you wanted me to kind of cover on that again with the mobile view compared to the desktop view? Is there anything I didn't go over? You can kind of see that hopefully you see that it would definitely absolutely work on the mobile phones. Either uploading photos from there, or again, you can upload photos from your desktop pretty simply as well. So the differentiators between where you put it are, I guess, the tasks, the documents, and then you've got your items. So those are the three different places that you can store documents, depending on where you feel that it's most important. So most of the time for, say, like a submittal, if you guys do any, I don't know if you guys submit any samples or anything to your owners, or any kind of a package for that matter, that would be a good place maybe to keep photos that are only in that submittal, whereas like a full site survey would be better to keep in your project document folder, because that's more of a project related item. So this document storage on each task is just kind of to give you an organization in the project itself. All right, so my change orders, I'm going to jump over to my change orders here. I've created one in the system.
I got one quick question. Where's it backed up at?
Where's the what?
Where's all the data backed up at?
You
Like,
mean
where
like
is
the
it?
actual physical location?
Yeah, I mean, like if we have to load all this stuff, is it on the cloud or is it? I mean, is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's triple redundancy. So there's
Okay.
one server running it, 3 servers back up
Okay.
in remote locations. So we've got a gigabit connection on our main server, which is really we never have had any issues with that. But obviously, if there ever was, we have 2. I believe at least 2. I think we just added the 3rd. We're actually in the process. If it's not already added, and they're all in different locations. So. I mean, there's absolutely no way of losing any data.
No, that's fine.
All right. So this change order here on the project was created a little bit ago, but you can see that I've got a subtotal, overhead and profit. So all this information is just how the system handles it off the bat. Obviously, if we're going to integrate with your Timberline, this is going to change to actually reflect what's in your Timberline system already. So your Timberline system could completely be integrated with this change order, whereas if you create this change order, it's going to create a change order in Timberline, creating a budget item on Timberline for that. So this change order here obviously is affecting your contract amount, whereas your change orders, if you have any vendors or if you have any subcontractors that you work for, you'll know that their change orders are going to affect your actual amounts or your actual totals that you're spending. So anytime during the project when you create these change orders, it's going to be on your budget sheet on this project. So depending on how you manage time entry and how you do pricing on each project, like that's mainly going to determine how this budget sheet is going to look. So when let's say you have 5 guys work a day, or each of them work 8 hours, and they're all $40 an hour or something around there. Would that charge be exactly how it is on the project? So you would charge 8 hours, 5 guys, $40 an hour, and that would be an expense on this project?
Follow-up costs like taxes and insurance and things like that hit later on if they charge time to a specific.
And Keith, I'm not going to go into that much depth on it. I'm going to get a loaded rate, and that's how we're going to load it if we do it this way.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense then, because yeah, you do have that ability, obviously, just to add the extra amount for tax and whatnot. That amount would transfer over to Timberline if you wanted it to, but are you looking to just have time entry that your accountants can go in, look at all the time entry, and then create, I guess, do the payroll? Is that what
If you meant accountants by PMs, yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, but if this is the entry point for their time, this has to be then transferred over to our payroll.
And that's exactly what I want, because I want to see an up-to-the-date, minute-by-minute, day to day. If I want to go in and look and see how we stand on specific jobs and how much that job costed me before it gets washed through all the accounting department's malaise, which tends to spit out a completely different number than what we anticipate. I'd rather at least see it go in, and I can have a lot more, not control, but visibility, so that whenever it goes in, I know what it went in at, and when it spits out the backside, when our accounting department gets it, I'm not absolutely flummoxed as to how they got their number. So yeah, I like that ability.
Okay.
And if Luke's listening, I bet you he does too.
All righty. All right. So Timberline it handles your time entry or your everything, right? So all your payroll and everything is done in there.
No.
Yeah. Payroll is done in Timberline. Absolutely.
Are we looking at any other systems that need to be integrated with? I guess that's my main.
No. You need to integrate with CRM, Sage CRM, and Timberline. That's it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, Sage we are pretty much fully integrated with, so that's much easier than any other third or other systems, because obviously we would have to completely redevelop the software development kit, so that takes quite a bit more labor. So yeah, that is absolutely possible. I personally don't do it, but we have a development team that would integrate your systems together. So that time entry would be able to push over after it's approved. Of course, your guys submitting the time isn't going to go directly into the system. It's going to be approved and then be routed over there. All right, so, and again, this change order is going to do pretty much the same thing. It's going to create a budget expense, and in this case, it's actually going to create or add to your contract amount, because in this is a change order to your owner, so it's revising the amount that you're receiving rather than getting. So then your requests for payment, do you usually do that through Timberline as well?
Most of the systems we have to input it into our customer's system, but it starts in Timberline.
Well, the PMs don't have that authority. We have to hand it off for it to be done, but that's another argument for another day. Yeah, we have to go into FST for AOU or to SRM for Ericsson, or Sprint has a different system, and TMO has a different system. But internal to Timberline, yes, our people are responsible for putting what we show as ready to bill.
Okay, understood. So yeah, and I guess between those two systems, we would have to determine where the connections are going to be made and not be made.
Well, again, a lot of times I don't understand how, again, this I won't get into why operations would be chasing the money, but as long as we can have it on the doorstep of our accounts receivable department, so that it's a nice little package for them to say, hey, bill this in our system, and if it will do that, then perfect. But I want to go to your change order thing, and I want to just I've got Steven on and I've got Warren on before he has to get on. So he's got 4 minutes, but let's take this. You're in the change order process right now. It's kind of where you are. This is kind of the sticky wicket for us, because we have multiple customers that want multiple change order forms in Excel, in different ways. Okay, so one of the concerns my PMs have is we go to a site. We can't complete the work, so we have to go back, which would elicit a change request or a change order. At that time, when we have to get approvals for a change order, so in this system, are the Excel templates customizable so that we can just have it spit out my request based on how a certain project is set up, or is it a global change? That's my first question. The second question is, after I submit a change order, what's the simplicity of going back into our system so I'm not having to change it in an Excel spreadsheet and then walk it back into this system? What if, can I change it one time and it's global?
Okay, the form itself at the moment is a static form. So when you export an Excel, and actually it's a PDF form, it's going to be one single form. I'd have to talk to our development team to kind of determine what it would take to have multiple different types of forms export. We do customize them for you, so we'll work with you to get them customized, but that's something that's actually on the back end right now. So it's mainly, we have to actually program them in the system. So that I guess that's kind of where that stands. Now, going back into the system and changing a change order is a pretty simple process. If you're just looking to, are you mainly looking to change the status of it, or what do you usually go back and change?
Yeah, we'll have to change the status. I mean, we would have to change some of the details of the change order. See, because, I mean, we have different potential change orders for every project we work on. For simplistic sake, we have let's just say an integration. We could do on one project 15 of these a day, and 6 of those we couldn't complete for some reason or another, and so we go to the site, something's not ready, we change order the customer for a trip charge and an hourly rate at a certain amount. So we have to submit that to the customer at the end of the week, and normally when we're really smoking on some of our bigger projects, it could be 30, 40, 50 of these a week, up to 60. It's a lot. And so what I don't want to get into is, here we're running our project here in Pantera or Insight, and 50 times in a week I have to have my PM go into an Excel spreadsheet because this can't handle it. I want to do it in one place, have it spit out the form. I mean, if we have to customize the form, I mean, tab delimited stuff's not too hard to do in Excel, and you can send it over specifically. I just want to know that I have the ability to adjust that spreadsheet once it spits it out if it's not customizable, or I can set the fields up and I just data fill my information per job like I would have to do in an Excel file, in a tracker, and I send it over to the customer, they send the approvals back, and then if I have to go one by one to put them in, it's a little bit time consuming. So I'm trying to determine how to best pose my question. I know I'm all over the place, but you kind of see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. If you got like say you got 4 customers and they all have different forms that they use, is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yeah, well, even the same customer, but different PMs at Ericsson want a form sent differently. They're really weird about that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Stephen
Wow.
and Warren know what I'm talking about here. I mean, they want it sent. I want the job, and then I want the PO, and then I want the amount, and then I want what you did, and then I want the approval. And it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but they're our customer. We have to do it their way, or they'll deny it, and then we have several $1,000s a week that we need to claim, and we have to do it their way, or they won't accept it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question, because I know at the moment we're exporting to PDF. So I guess the most valuable thing to you guys would be just to be able to limit the amount of information that you put on it, or at least edit it after you export it.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, the way we actually set up the system is we originally created these PDFs with an Excel document. So I mean, the Excel document shouldn't be a problem. Honestly, that's something that's a little more, I guess, more on the programming side.
Yeah. So let me bring Stephen in real quick. So Stephen, on your fields on a specific job, and guys, I'm sorry, but if we're going to really kind of dig into the details of the tools, there are specifics that we're going to have, and so Luke and Donna, forgive my jumping in here. So Stephen, explain to Evan a specific fields that you would require just on your project alone in making a change request submittal. Kind of tell him what you have to send over to the customer.
Yeah, depending on, like I said, which area that we're actually working in, it can go from the customer's FA code all the way down to once you submit it back in, you got to go back in and put the SRM confirmation number. I mean, it can go from 5 tabs or from 5 different columns to 10. I mean, depending on the customer.
But they're all
and each one's specific. I mean, like mine's totally different than what Warren's required in one of his projects.
Okay, but they're all
I understand.
Correct. Okay, so if you have the form set up with all the data elements on the form,
mm-hmm.
Evan, is there an export of report type of function as opposed to being a individual form to be able to say, okay, I want to set a parameter for the items I want to be able to export?
That's exactly how it's phrased. Yeah. So in other words, let's say that
exactly. I was going to say I know exactly what you're talking about. Like you would say you go onto your change order and then you check the things that you want to be exported to your document, and then it's exported. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just something it's not in the system currently. I know that for sure. So getting something like that would definitely be something we'd have to create ourselves or program ourselves. But I mean, with the customizability, I don't think it's impossible. I think that kind of a feature would be a lot more complex, obviously, than like an exporting to an Excel document that's changeable outside of the system. But
now,
I guess
and you may have already covered this, but as far as importing the site info, I mean, can you import it from Excel, or does it actually have to manually be inputted for each site?
You mean, can you import like data fields into the?
Yeah, like basically, like say, like for most, you have the site number, FA code, all the address information, all that. It's already in Excel when we get it from the customer. All that information has to be imported into this. Does that have to be done manually, or is it like an import function?
It would have to be. I mean, you can create projects and things like that from Microsoft project files, but nothing with Excel document. Only because the format could be all over the place, and it doesn't know where to pull it from. So there's because you could have 10 different documents that have project information in different formats, and one little formatting change would throw off that code where it wouldn't work. So that isn't. I mean, if you had, we had a client that wanted to have some sort of like an importing feature to create stuff from an Excel document, and that kind of a feature isn't as hard as it isn't actually that hard in itself. But then you get to the requirements to actually do it, and you're required to have one single format when it's sent in, because the system has to know where to look and what to look at for that data. So then, I mean, by then it ended up that they were just basically creating another Excel document just to upload information into the system, and it became almost just worth to create or just copy and paste the data directly into it when you create the project. So yeah, there's not currently a way to just import the information directly in from an Excel document.
Ooh, that's going to be tough.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, that's how we get all of our that's how we get all of our projects is they dump it to us in an Excel spreadsheet. That's kind of how we have to load it.
Well, I mean, you're just saying like project information?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that we don't at the moment. We can't create a project from an Excel document. But I actually don't. I don't know of any systems that do. But I would like to see it, because I think that the future would definitely be nice. It's just the fact that there's so many different variables with those documents that can happen. It would be almost impossible to program that. Now, if you had one single document that you always uploaded, so you had your company document that always had the same fields in each spot and all that data in those fields, that would be completely different. That would be a lot easier than doing something that varies from customer to customer.
So if I have a project that's going to last me a year and a half in a market, and I have essentially 800 POs with each PO that has 5 line items, you're looking at 4,000 lines that I'm going to have to data fill into a program. How would you not use something like Excel to do that? I mean, first of all, it would take me 3 months to have my person enter it by hand, and I mean, just don't know how we could do that efficiently without that option.
I must be misunderstanding what you're using it for. What do you mean importing 800 POs for? I guess, can you kind of explain that a little bit better?
When we get sites from our customer, for example, we've got a project coming up that we're going to have roughly 875 sites. Each one of those sites, they will give us line items for those sites. Each site could be, and I think with mine and Stephen's area, you could have 4 or 5 line items associated with each one of those sites. So if you're talking about 800 or 900 sites times, 5 or 6 line items, your POs that have to be entered in individually for each of those, you're talking thousands that are individually put in line by line in an Excel form.
Okay.
But what they're proposing on this front is the fact that, okay, you've got a template of work that you're going to be providing on each one of those sites. You're going to have task A, task B, task C. You're going to set up those tasks, and you're going to make a new site for each one of those guys based on a template, it's going to drag it in there, and you're going to rename where that site is, and it's going to already have all of your dependency tasks and all of the items that need to be completed on that site as part of that template.
So this system is going to recognize and be able to know, based on the fixed package pricing, that EM012C INT is going to be integration, and EM03 INS is going to be install, and it's going to automatically populate it, or is that something that we're going to have to go in based on each line item for each site on each one and do for each?
No, I think
So if you have integration for 20 different job sites, is the purchase order going to be the same for all those?
Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
that's the key factor right there.
it is
So
going to contain the same amount of the statement of work in one shape or another. You're going to be able to define your statement of work based on specific tasks.
Depending on if you're doing 1C, 2C, UMTS, we can have the same project like we're going to have in Florida and Mississippi, that you're doing the UMTS integration, which is going to be a different value than the LTE integration, which is going to be a different value than the LTE2C integration. They're all integration, but it's all the same project.
And it could be on the same site, by the way.
Exactly.
Each has a different value associated with it. The values wouldn't change associated with that, whether or not it's one type of, if for the same integration, would it?
Well, I'll tell you this, it could vary from state to state.
Well,
it also could, I mean, so
that's a
again,
difference.
I'm getting into the weeds here, but I don't want to have one or two of these kind of hiccups, catch us 4 months down the road when we can't load these things into our system, or we have to do them by hand. It's just, we get these via spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And that's why our guys run trackers via spreadsheet.
Right, and there's something on that spreadsheet that tells you what the work is that to be performed. And
No, exactly. Well, yeah, because it's coded by the way that, say, Ericsson gives us the work. So, again, Evan, just for ease of understanding. So, say we have just an integration. Now, that can consist of different things, but I'm going to make it easy. If we get a PO for an integration, inside that integration, Evan, we will have to, we may have to install a fiber, and we may have to do a call test, or there might be 3 items underneath that specific integration PO that we have to perform. Now, here's where we ran into the project management tool issues when it came to change orders. Suppose we only were able to complete 2 of those 3. We can't finish that PO because we have one outstanding item internal to that PO that we could not complete, whether it's our fault or the customer's, it doesn't matter. We can't complete the PO. But we have a change order that tells the customer, listen, we have to go back to complete this site. We want to add that change order to this PO. That PO is going to be different than the very next site that we do tomorrow because we might complete all of that work. So internal to each site, I have to have the ability to load everything that comes to us internal to that and have specific line items, much like our POs come, so that those things are put into the system inside this tool, so I'm not juggling a spreadsheet and going back to the tool back. I mean, does that make any sense at all, or am I just all over the place?
Yeah, it does make sense. I just know that you can't import that data from Excel in our system. I mean, I understand it's extremely important from the sounds of it, because obviously if you're creating 100 different job sites and you have different tasks on each one of them that have different purchase orders on each one of those tasks, and you don't have the time to manually create all those, I guess that's where we kind of hit a wall there, because you got, in the system itself, you can use templates, but the template requires that you have some sort of a similarity between the template and the project you're creating it with. So whether it be tasks or resource types or cost codes or whatever it may be, when you create it with a template, you kind of the speed of it kind of requires you to, or is requiring you to it to be the same exact as the template you're creating it from. So the new project, unless you
All right, so
if you go back and change a new project, it's obviously going to take time. So I understand if you don't have time to do that.
yeah, so would it help, Evan, if I sent you, hey, Stephen, do you have an SRM dump that you could consolidate just so that we can kind of throw it over to him and let him look at it? Because, I mean, if they can find the ability to load it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So you will see kind of how when we get our dump from the customer, they just spit it over. It's a huge file, and we usually have to comb through it. And again, you know, they kind of tell us how to run how to do it. So, Stephen, do you have one you can condense and shoot over to him and kind of show him how we build our tracker based on the dump?
But hey, not to also get even more into the weeds, but you know, and I know the SRM dump shows a lot of the information, but once that information gets to the IM, there are additional items that have nothing to do with the SRM dump that we have to reference when dealing with these IMs. I mean, you have, you know, CRIDs and FA numbers and all of these different project numbers that have to be populated in, you know, when you're dealing with CRs back to the IM that have nothing to do with SRM. But, I mean, that's for down the road, but, I mean, it's just, you know, something else to throw out there as a potential, you know, monkey wrench.
Okay, guys. So, yeah, we've you know, taken up about 30 minutes on this topic, and we do have other groups in here that are utilizing the tool. So let's just agree that your guys are going to get together whatever you need to provide him so that he can do that and come back to us with a response. And let's let Evan go ahead and just show how, as it's set up right now, how his change order processes work, both to on the client-facing side as well as to the subcontractor side, and kind of move on through this because we've only got 45 minutes left, and as I understand, it's a very important point. It's probably the most important point of that. But if we could get that, then we could use that with other vendors that we're looking at also and say, here's what our example. Is everybody okay with that? Warren, you okay? Walter, you okay with it?
That works for me. This is Evan.
I can show him. I can send him some stuff.
Okay, all right. One question I will have associated with the same thing, Evan. Do you have a customer-facing API that we could, rather than waiting for them to send us an Excel spreadsheet, that we could integrate directly into their system to take down orders? We
do. We have a full API. That's actually what we use to integrate your systems already. So your Timberline, CRM, all that is integrated using our API.
Okay, so if the customer was willing, we could conceivably integrate so that we could totally do away with the Excel spreadsheet and actually integrate directly with them, our two systems, so that we feed back and forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's 100. I mean, every data field in our system is mapped in our API.
Okay.
So there's full capability of that. And we actually do that, as we offer that service as well. If a customer is willing to allow us to pull that information from them, we have, I mean, just like our Timberline integration, we would go in there and find the data connectors and connect them two together. So that is of course a possibility.
Okay.
And that would be, of course, really nice, because then you get away with you get rid of the Excel document. In fact, it would probably be less programming to do that itself.
So
my understanding, I'm sorry, I'm going to misunderstand originally, but I thought they were sending you just a document that they had constructed themselves, but it sounds like they're actually exporting it from their system itself and then sending it over. So, I mean, if that's
I don't know, Walter, Warren, guys, is it outside of their system, or is it part and parcel of their system?
Well,
what are we talking?
As far as the TO portion, that's actually an export from their system that we get. But
okay.
As far as like the data dumps and all that stuff, that's actually coming from the customer, and that can vary between different markets of how they keep up with their data dumps.
Okay, so one of the options might be to actually utilize your internal API to dump into another system that we would create that we could create an Excel spreadsheet out of.
Too.
Because you could go. Yep. Because you could go into a database, and then you could pull anything out of that database.
Yeah.
The change
absolutely.
Order.
Just small SQL database, and exactly. So that is absolutely a capability, and we could probably even house that database on the server as well.
Yeah, right. I would think that would be probably the solution, because given the flexibility that Warren and them needs, but the incoming, Warren, Walter, and Steve and I would think we'd probably try to get our major customers, the Ericssons of the world and Sprints and etc., to integrate directly with us, utilizing the API. And most of them offer that as an option in the very initial setup. When we go through questions and answers, they ask whether or not we have an API in order to do this data transfer. So they're all pretty agreeable to that. So anyway.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's good to hear then. Yeah, because we have a full API, so that's a pretty nice feature there. So let me get to my change orders as you requested here. I'll go to my change orders to my owners first. Now, in the system as is, without with the integration, of course, it's going to create the item in Timberline, but you can export these to a PDF and email them through the system just as you can with the other items. RFIs, pretty much anything in the system can be exported and emailed. So when you create this original item, you've got a status of pending. This is a manually updated thing, so you, the project manager, are going to go in here, or whomever is responsible for this item is going to go in here and edit this status. This status is going to change the state of it, and this is going to allow you, and it's going to open and close this basically, and it's going to allow you to report on it. So all of these change orders that you're creating through the system, like you said, you might have 50, 60 change orders in a week. You might have 20 of them open or 40 of them closed, or any kind of a ratio it is. You'd only want to see maybe the open ones. You can go to your reporting feature, and you can actually show only the open change order. So after I show you these change orders, I'll get to my reporting feature so you can kind of see what other items I can show there. But this state here, this status, is going to allow you to report on this item later on. Now when you send this item through the system, they're going to receive that PDF. So if you click this email page button here, they're going to receive the PDF with this data exported to it. As is, obviously. If you have your own form, we can import that. So it's all dependent on how you already handle it. And then this change order here is going to create an entry in the budget sheet, and then with the integration, it would push over to your Timberline as well and enter onto your budget on the project. Of course, that's only going to happen when the status is approved, so it's not going to do anything until it is approved. Now, if you have some kind of like an owner or a client that's willing to go in the system, they can actually get a link. When you email this page, they're going to get a link directly to this item. If they have a login, they can log in and edit this item themselves as well. But of course, if they don't, they can just reply to the email, and when they click reply, it'll automatically go to the person that sent this item out to their email, and then they'll be able to go in here, check the status that was approved or rejected. So when they save this change order here, this is a saved change order, they can add documents, or you can add documents to it. So down here, just like the other items, you can add files, you can add shortcuts. It's pretty flexible in that regard. And then when you add those files and send the email out, it's actually going to give them a link to download any files that are attached to this. So it's kind of keeping them up to date with any photos or anything that might be applicable to this change order. Any questions about that change order to owner? I got another change order I'm going to go over after this too.
No, that's okay. Go on to the next.
Okay, understood. All right, so change orders to vendors is actually organized on the task level. So you would go to a task and view the change order. That can be moved, so you can have your purchase orders just be applicable to the whole project and maybe assign them to a task. But in this case, you're going to a task and then putting a purchase order on that task. So if I create I'm sorry, I'm going to change orders from vendors actually. Same with change orders to vendors, so they're really similar. They both are created on the project level, and they both enter in budget expense items. So if I go and create this change order from vendor here, I can create a new one on this list. I kind of went fast through this. This is the list. Normally, if I have any, obviously they're going to be displayed here, but I don't at the moment. So I'm going to create a new one, and you'll see this gives me a pop-up box here that allows me to fill out any related information. It's going to give me a small description of just the task name right away. It's going to select the resource for that task automatically. So this is the reason that having it on a task level is nice, because it's going to fill out all this information automatically. As well as when you send the email out, it's going to select their email automatically. So whoever it's requested by, it's going to be right here. So this is actually this change order to vendor. You guys are you guys receiving change orders from your subcontractors? How do you normally handle these change orders? Are these more so you send change orders to the vendors that you buy from?
It goes both ways.
Okay. All right, understood. In that case, this is actually modeling if you were receiving a change order.
But again, I can't speak for Donna or Luke, and I haven't heard them yet, so I don't know what their jobs entail. So I can only speak for wireless. Okay. Again, it feels like I'm taking over the whole conference here.
I agree with you. It does.
Right. Okay, sounds good. Well, in that case, this right here is it's modeling out after you're receiving an RFI, or I'm sorry, a change order from anybody. So whoever's sending the change order, it's going to be requested by. Then you got your description information, your profit information. So all of this data is all internal. The only thing that's going to be transferred to that document anytime you export this information out is your requested amount. So this document here most likely won't be printed out, but it'll be sent back to the vendor that's requesting the change order. So this item here, after it's approved by you, you can put your approved amount in here. This is the amount that's going to transfer over as your approved amount. So when I save this here, let me make sure I have all my required information here and save it. So now this change order, just as the other change order, can be emailed through the system, or you can view the PDF that's going to be sent if you email a page through the system. And again, this would be pushed to your budget sheet on Timberline, and then a budget sheet entry would be added in here on the budget sheet. This is my budget sheet here, so you can see I didn't actually have a value on this, so there's no values. So you can see that this is the main budget sheet for the project, though. So once you start accumulating values for the project, and especially with the integration, this is going to be identical to your budget that you would see on Timberline. So either system that you look in, you're going to see the updated budget of the project. And if I go back to that budget sheet just quickly here, you can see that once I set my contract amount, it's going to apply it against my gross profit here, or it's going to apply it against my revenue rather, and then show me my gross profit. So this is an always updated budget sheet here. All right. Are there any questions about those change orders? Either one? Okay. I'm going to go over to reporting now. So the reporting feature is, in my opinion, probably the most powerful in the system. This is going to allow you to pretty much query everything in the system by almost any filtering value. This report button that I clicked here was the project level report. So this is just reports on this specific project. So if I click this top project report here, this is going to bring me to the entire level where I can report on anything in the system, any project, any budget, any task. So for demonstration purposes here, I'm going to show you the change order one. You can see that there's a list of different items I can query here, but I'm going to go to my change order to owner here, and I'm going to create a new report. So these are the filtering options I have for the change orders. This is pretty similar to the project, except project reports are going to give you different filtering options. Tasks are going to give you different filtering options. So there's always this extensive filtering availability here, which is going to allow you to really only get the items that you want. So here I can view my open, closed, state. But in this case, let's just view my open change orders. So if I refresh this, this is going to get me a list of all of my open change orders in the system. And then I can actually save this report too. So if I save this report as change order here, anytime I want to view this report quickly, I can go up to my reports tab, click that change order report, and I can see all my list of change orders that are still open. So this is going to allow me to manage everything rather than just a one project basis. And then I can actually just click these change orders, go directly to it, and then edit the information. And as soon as I save it, so let's say I go in here and changed my status as approved, that's going to close that item. And if I go to my change order list here, you'll see that that item is now gone. So it's only going to show a live updated version of this report. And then you can see that I have a shortcut to it at any time, so it's a pretty easy way to get it. Another way to do a shortcut as well is to add it as a home page. So you can set a default home page if you wanted a report or anything for that matter to be your home page directly when you log in. Or you can add it to be a home page, so you can simply have it as a link here. So you see I added that, and I have just a quick link to this page at any time. The reporting feature really does all those items that we showed earlier too. So any RFIs, do you guys do a lot of RFIs?
We do some. Not. You mean incoming RFIs or us generating RFIs?
Generating RFIs. Well, I guess any kind of RFI that you would want to have documentation for.
Yeah. Sometimes for major projects when we're trying to get subcontractor quotes in. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if I'll just quickly touch up on that. The RFI function, or feature rather, is going to allow you to just basically create an RFI with any information that you want. Of course, it's customizable, but in this case, it's mainly got just response information and reference information. So this is, if you want to send an RFI through the system, you would simply type your information up here that you're requesting an answer for, maybe if there's a location to it. So this is, at the moment, this is actually kind of supposed to be mainly if like you're sending an RFI of a question during the project to anybody for that matter. As soon as you type the information in, you save it here, and then just as change orders work, you can go up and email this page. It's going to bring all this information and put it into a document, a PDF document, and then send it via email. So all of these items are reportable on. So you, at any time, you can go up to your reports and view all of your open RFIs, all your open change orders, and this is going to allow you to keep up to date, make sure you're not missing anything. And with that report here that I didn't show you, you can kind of see it's kind of a limited view. This display options button also allows you to change the columns. So in any page, whether it's this page or your task view, you can add new columns. Anywhere you see columns, you can literally add new columns anywhere. So if I wanted to add different items like the status to all these, comments or anything, I can add those and refresh it, and then it's going to add that on this view here. So it kind of just gives me a more in-depth view of it without having to click and view where it's at in the process. All right.
Can you also show how you would issue a PO for a particular task, or also want you to show the allocation of resources as it relates to teams, subcontractors, and individuals?
Yep, absolutely. I will absolutely do that. The purchase orders are extremely similar to change orders in the fact that they're going to create a budget line item, and it's going to be pushed over to your accounting system when it's an approved change order. You can see that this is my list of change orders back here. This is a purchase order rather. If I go and add a purchase order, I can create a new one. This is going to select all the information that's applied to this task automatically, just as the change orders will. It's going to allow you to type in your scope, any reference documents for this purchase order, and then it's going to have all of your purchase order information down here that can actually be templatized, so you can have this all already in your PDF, which would eliminate the requirement to have to copy and paste any of this information in. It would just already be in your template. This is just for demonstration purposes that it's empty. And then you got obviously your price, and then down on the bottom there's a submittal required. So if you wanted to create a submittal, which I'm not sure if you guys do submittals too much. Do you guys have to submit samples a lot? Samples of items?
What do you mean by samples of items? I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
A lot of our contractors because obviously we're in the construction business, so a lot of contractors have different materials they have to submit. So samples of materials that they submit to their clients.
No, not typically. At least I'm not aware of that. Walter, Warren, Stephen, anybody? No.
Well, if it what was that?
I don't know. Go ahead.
Anyway, this option here is going to create a submittal. So if you guys are ever looking for a submittal feature, that's here. And the submittals can be used to send anything. So it can be sent to send submittal of pictures or any for that matter. I mean, it's really any type of an item that needs to be submitted to the owner. This would be if you're generating a purchase order that you know there's going to be a submittal required for, you can do that. Now, if you guys don't use that feature, we would just remove this field for you. And then you got your purchase order complete. So this is basically, this is going to do the actual push. So if this box isn't checked, there's going to be no effect on your budget sheet. It's not going to be sent to your accounting system. There's going to be no impact with this purchase order until this box is checked. This purchase order, after I created here, in this case I didn't check the box, so it doesn't have any effect on my budget, and I have a zero price for it too, so that won't. But just as the change orders will, I can email this page out, and it's going to allow me allow the person who's receiving it to get that PDF with all this information I filled out. And again, I can view this PDF at any time just directly in the system if I want. Now this email page is always going to send the same PDF as I can view here. The reason that this is here is mainly to view the PDF that would be generated when sending the email. And then just as the change orders do, you can add files to these as well. So if there's any applicable files for purchase orders, you can do that right here.
Okay, so
is that kind of what you're looking for in a purchase order system? What exactly are you mainly using purchase orders for?
Well, this would allow us to do a purchase order per function, per project, which would allow us to have committed costs per line item, which we do not currently have.
Okay.
So it would be a nice function. I'm assuming that the ability to issue that PO to a subcontractor would be based upon information that we could pull from our Timberline subcontractor management system.
Yes, that is correct. Or either pull from it or
push.
Well, I guess yeah, it depends where the connection is made. I don't know if I don't user accounts are a little bit different usually, but I think with your address book, yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. So
because we'd want to make certain that things like COIs were in place and that that they were a subcontractor in good standing with us and everything. So
yeah, I hear you. Yeah, in that case, you would have basically your integration with your Timberline would have a drop down of your subcontractors in the system. That's how that would have to work then.
Does the PO have the ability to create several POs for possibly different sites, but the scope of work stays the same?
No, when you're creating a purchase order, you're just creating this purchase order for this project here. So the purchase order function is simply to create one single entry, like one line entry, I guess. It doesn't have the ability to go from project to project.
Actually, I think what Donna was referencing is a single project, but having multiple sites was what she was referencing.
Well, I guess whenever you create a purchase order, it's just one purchase order. So even if it's on the same project, you're creating just one single purchase order. So it's only going to create, like if it's a $5,000 purchase order, you're only creating one $5,000 entry.
I understand, but I need to do the same thing that 10 different purchase orders. It's the exact same thing on 10 different sites. So my question is, if I have identical purchase orders, but they're at different sites, would the scope of work on the purchase order have a template, more or less.
Well, I mean, there could be. There certainly could be. Would it be? I guess how would that work though? Would it be like a drop down, or how would you select the template? How would you want to?
Right now, I have a drop down.
Okay, so you select what type of a purchase order it is.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that would basically be the way that we would have to handle it then. But that would I have never actually created that kind of an item in the system, so I'm not certain if we can have that fill in items automatically. I know we could do a drop down for like your scope of work, so you could select between different types of scope of work.
That's what I'm after, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. That wouldn't be an issue whatsoever.
Okay.
Yep, that is no problem.
Very good.
We could have it be a drop down, or you could type it in manually if you wanted.
Okay. And that's what I need, both be able to do it both ways.
Yeah, you mean either be able to type or type and select? Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I may have a project
absolutely.
that comes in, with 50 different sites that we're doing the same thing in 50 different locations.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be able to have that, just be able to create the scope of work and then create each, what I would consider a work order to send out to the vendors.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Yeah, then that drop down would not be an issue whatsoever.
Okay.
Alrighty. So I know one last thing that you wanted to look at was the resource allocation, kind of. So if I go over to my project resources here, you'll see that this is a list of the resources that are assigned to this project that I originally put on the project. I know I showed you this a little bit. You can add any people that you want. This is adding them to the whole project. So this isn't actually giving them an assignment of work. This is just saying that they might be assigned to a task on this project. The main thing that actually is going to give somebody a resource allocation time is those tasks. So if you have a task taking place for 4 hours today, their resource allocation is going to show that they're not available for half of today. If I go to my resource allocation here, you can see that I've got one of my contractors here that's not available for 8 hours today. So if I do these drop downs here, you can see what they're doing here. You can actually reassign them directly here. So you can reassign this work to any of your resources on the task here. So you can see that I've got a contractor here that's doing 16 hours of work on his own, and he's got it during one day. So that either means that I need to have another guy in here doing half the work, or I need to have another day for that guy to do it. So this is going to show you who's doing too much work. It's going to show you who's not doing a whole lot of work, so you can kind of reassign your workforce to allow you to more balance your workload a little bit better. So you can see that this is all a drag and drop too. So if any of my guys are doing too much at any point, I can just drag it over to another person, reassign it, and now I've got the work instead of that other guy.
Now you're showing that in a day view, which really doesn't, considering that we may do 4 or 5 sites in one day. Can you show it by hourly for that particular day?
That's a good point. I remember us talking about that. I did figure out it's all by day on this view here. So this is showing the amount of time that you're available. It's not showing the hours. If you needed to see that, I guess it would be a matter of going to that task and figuring out what time it is. Personally, there's no way to view the hour by hour.
Okay, so it's not really it's really not a workforce optimization system then, where you're allocating on an hourly basis time of a group of people.
Not entirely, no. It's let me just report here. You can. It's just not on the per hour basis, I guess. It is a workforce optimization. It's just not. I guess it's more of like a per day, like a project workforce optimization. Like you're optimizing the amount of hours that everybody's working in a day, but you're not necessarily monitoring the hours that they're working.
Yeah, the other systems that we're looking at have an hourly dashboard that we can go in and you can track people literally on an hourly basis where they are in the course of the day, as well as the drive time between locations and things like that. But they're more of a mobile workforce optimization system, I think, than what you are.
Okay, understood. Yeah, in this case, you're mainly viewing a per day thing. You got your work hours in that day. Unfortunately, we don't have the per hour basis on that resource allocation area. Are there any questions about that resource allocation?
I want to show the difference between crews and individuals and subs.
Okay. So you've got your subcontractors, which would be, they're all going to be users in the system. So regardless, they're all going to be able to be added as resources on a project. They're all going to be added resources on a task. You can send them items. The only difference is the actual access of login. So on this project, you see I've got a list of people. This guy here is a subcontractor. I'm pretty sure I have him enabled as a subcontractor. Let me go to my users list here. And actually, if I go back to that, you can see I can edit the user right here too, directly on this inline view here. So if I go to, I'm going to go to my full user list and actually edit their user profile. So you can see the different items here. So these system roles here is what determines what the person can do. This box down here is really the main differentiator between subcontractors and anybody that actually uses this system. So if you have a subcontractor that's not actually accessing it, they're really not going to have any of these boxes checked because you're only sending them and assigning them to tasks. In fact, they'll actually have this box checked, but that's it. You've got your, any of your users in the system, of course, are going to be changed directly in here. They're going to have all these boxes checked if they're a team member, power user. So this is where you determine what type of user they are as well. Now this is a single person. So this is one single user. When you get into crews of people, you're talking about groups of people. So you would create a group. Now these groups here, you can see that we have our internal groups that we actually use in our system. When you get your system, there'll be no groups. You can create a group here, and then simply by clicking this user button, once you create it, you can add new users to this group. And then from there, on the project itself, if I go over to my project and my resources for the project, I can add the entire group at once. So this is going to allow me to have multiple crews, maybe one guy assigned to 5 crews even. There's no restriction to that. Anytime you add that entire group, it's adding everybody in that group. Does that, you said group subcontractors, was there one more?
Crews. So you have like a 4-person crew or a 3-person crew, and you can set and change and those resources.
Yeah, in that case, yeah, that would be handled with these groups here. Just creating a group of people, like you'd have your users. Obviously, all your employees would be users, and then you would create a group, which would, in turn, you would add those users to the group, and then you would have a group of those people that you could add at once to anything.
Okay.
And those groups are also reflected in other areas, such as permissions. So if you have a group of people and you removed a guy, and you had a folder here, so if I go to my templates folder and I go to this folder here, and I go to my permissions, you can see that I can add groups of people to permissions on this. So this is going to allow you to maybe add a group of a project manager has a couple work crews and you want to give them permission to certain folders. Well, if one guy had got fired or something, you could remove it, and obviously you would remove his account too, but that would remove his permissions from this. So this kind of keeps it an automatically updating thing.
Yeah, here's the couple of things that we need to understand. I know Donna wants to understand it more. So we've got subcontractors out there. Subcontractors have very specific sets of skills. Some have electrical capability, high voltage, others don't. Some have low voltage. Some have certain licenses. Some and they are located in a given geographic area. When we allocate work to them, or when we search for a resource in a given area, can you search by a combination of zip code to see where they're available, as well as skill sets?
Okay, well, you have, on each person, you have a resource type or role. So that's basically assigning a code to them to say what they do. With that, you've got just other notes, which is basic just information that you might be able to type in there, not necessarily searchable. So yeah, this resource type would be the way that you would determine that. This is just the default that we put in here, so we would actually go through and update these for you. Now, skill sets and different things that would be maybe not really necessarily relatable to any other field of construction, that would be, again, a custom field that you can add in, and all these custom fields are searchable.
Okay, how do I, if I need a technician in Paducah, Kentucky, and right now I don't care what he does, how do I find him?
Are you looking to add him to a specific project?
Maybe. I need something.
You just want to find him?
Yeah, I don't even know who to call. How do I find out who to call?
Yeah. See, Donna has about 1,200 subcontractors nationwide that she utilizes for project activity. So she gets a work order in to perform some function in Paducah, Kentucky, and she needs to be able to identify a resource based upon a zip code that's relatively close, and as well as a skill set. So it starts out as a zip code and then moves into a skill set.
I've got something to show you. Our plan room does that extremely well. Our plan room is integrated with this. So what our plan room does is it manages our general contractors' database of subcontractors. For instance, the subcontractor that I'm about to show you has about 26,000 subcontractors in their database. And let me log in here. This is just they gave us permission to view their site here and show it demonstration purposes. And you can see that this is just their plan room homepage. So this is where they would log in, and then they've got an address book on here. So their address book is going to contain all of their users that all their subcontractors rather. So over here in this system is going to be all their actual laborers, and then they can import people into the system from this one here. So I'm on the address book of the plan room right now. Up here you can search by zip code and by the radius of that zip code. You can go to the advanced search and search by more advanced options, so you can search by radius of the zip code and union guys, or maybe you wanted to find certain groups of people.
So I would have to have my existing technicians that we use every day now go onto this site and sign up on this site in order to be able to find them?
Well, if you have a list of them already, we can import them. So if you have a list of Excel or something that of your subcontractors, we can import them, and so you can have your people in here already. And then at any time, if you had a new guy that wanted to work for you, they can go on your site and register. And this, we actually handle this as an integrated plan room, so this would be integrated with your site if you wanted. There's an integrated plan room option, and basically you have a button on your site that would go to your plan room, and then they can register on your site, or of course you can add new people yourself too. These people are all going to have logins, so you can send them documents through here. You can email them through your FTP here. You can send them project requests. But if you're just mainly looking for somebody to do the work, this would be the best way to do it, because after you find the person here, and actually you can access this from here too. So if you have a project that you want to create or add people from, you can add people directly from this address book onto the project as a resource. So you find the guy in here, add him as a resource on your project. All of his data gets transferred over into the system. He's not an actual user, but he's just somebody that can receive documents through the system. And now this, like I showed you, this advanced search option is going to give you the availability to search by zip code and by cost code or type. So you can see these different groups here. This contractor uses this type of cost code selection, but this is all customizable to what you guys need to use.
Okay.
I mean, is that kind of what you're looking for, just like a searching function of trying to find your subcontractors?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. Just out of curiosity, so in this plan room, you said you could pass orders to the contractor in the plan room. Can the contractor respond back in this as to the work that's been finished and everything, or is that totally separate?
This is mainly used for bidding. I mean, I suppose they could, because there is a comments or on each project there
but
is
not
like a comment field. But it's not. This is mainly for like a bidding process. That's kind of what this is used for.
Okay.
I mean, we don't limit anybody's use of it. They can use it any way they'd like.
Okay. All right. Then final. We've only got 5 more minutes, but I want to get back to the smartphones. And and you can just answer this real quick, and then we can get anybody else to ask any other questions. But on your smartphone, your integration that you utilize essentially a URL. I'm assuming based upon that you cannot utilize GPS positioning to see where somebody is based upon the GPS of their smartphone. Is that correct or not correct?
That is correct. We do not currently have that feature.
Okay. So given the fact you don't have that in your smartphone, you probably don't have a capability of starting the day out with a single button on your smartphone, arriving at site and doing any sort of GPS stamping or anything like that.
No, we do not. I'm aware of what you're talking about. I know there are some time entry things that do not. Proprietary time entry software normally we don't. Did you tell me that you were looking at a true more smartphone app, or am I getting you confused with somebody else? You might be confusing us. I did say that the reason we use this version is because of the different types of devices out there. We don't limit.
I know, and that's I got to tell you, that's kind of an old statement. Given the fact that Android and iOS now constitutes 95% of the marketplace out there, that really.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Yeah, and that really limits some of the capabilities of some of the things that you can do by not having a true native app for the phone, and certainly GPS positioning is one of the critical things that we're interested in on here. So, okay. Any other questions from the field? Brad, any questions from your point? Okay. All right, guys. Thanks very much, Evan. Thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we'll get back to you in the next week or so. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.